Okay. Hey, everybody watching this in the future. I have not yet broadcast the link everywhere. So I have to go live first, and then I can get the link and share it. So you get it's just this little time is just for us, for the future viewers, not the live ones. So should we just take a moment and enjoy a little moment together? Okay, I better get to this here. Let's see. I gotta post. Go to your channel. Hello. And go to We're live. Okay. I gotta post it here. And I gotta post it on Patreon. And I gotta post it in the Discord. There we go. Okay. Now, pull up. Let's move the Discord over here so I can get those questions all lined up. And let's go over to the stream. Okay. Hey, Peter. Congrats on being first. All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome. So we're going to do things a little bit differently this time. For those that have watched Q&As in the past, I've always done this like with somebody, right? For a long time, it was my friend Dallin. My friend Preston has filled in, my son and editor Knox. Last month, I did Will from D&D Shorts because we were at Gen Con together. But I've kind of been feeling like maybe I should make this a little more interactive with the viewers, because I feel like ultimately I end up mostly having a conversation with the person that I'm with and sort of fielding questions occasionally from Discord, from the chat. And I thought, I don't know, why don't I try just doing it solo? And maybe that will encourage me, let me be a little bit more engaged with you guys. The thing that I'm nervous about when it comes to that is that there might be a lot of moments of this where I'm like, okay, let's see, what are the comments saying, and it might not necessarily make for great entertainment. But maybe that's not why you're here. Maybe you're just here to hang out and engage a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And by the time we're done, and if you're watching this after the live when it's just kind of recorded, right? Make comments. Let me know. Let me know if you have a preference for whatever format. Okay. So yeah, what's up? It is a beautiful Friday afternoon here in near Salt Lake City, Utah, where I'm at. The sun's shining. It's been raining for the last few days. It's lovely. And I'm just looking forward to the weekend, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys for an hour. So let me just look at the comments. Hi. Yo, hey. Just break into song during any awkward pauses. It's not a bad idea, Andy, although it might drive some viewers away. You'd be surprised at the number of comments that I get from people who actually stay to the end of the video, right, and watch the outtakes, and then, say something like, "Please stop singing." And it's just like, nah. Bump. Sorry. Hey, Steven. Nice. Thanks for the gift memberships. 20 of them. Grab those up, everybody. That was very kind of you, Stephen. Always so generous in the super chats. Much appreciated. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of like go back and forth between the Discord and between the chat. I'll kind of answer a question and then maybe look at the chat and engage a little bit. Go back, answer another question, and we'll kind of go that way. How's that sound? So the first question that I didn't get to, well, that came in after last month's post, from Joshy P. I'm a pretty light, humorous person, but all my D&D characters tend to be kind of serious. How do you go about making lighter characters that don't veer all the way into the shtick joke characters? This is such a great question, Joshy P. And actually something that I spent a lot of time talking with Monty about when we were at Gen Con, at the beginning of the month. I tend to feel like, all right, this might be a hot take. This might offend some of you, and if so, I apologize. I tend to feel like too often we as players at a D&D table use humor as a crutch. I think that there is a vulnerability inherent in playing a tabletop game with other people, and role playing in particular, right? That makes us afraid and that makes us nervous, especially if we don't know people that well, especially if we're performing in front of other people, like live on stage or streaming or something, right? That we tend to, and this is an overgeneralization, I appreciate that, but I think we tend to sort of go into humor as a defense mechanism to keep us from being overly vulnerable, or from having to feel vulnerable, and get into sort of more serious and or real emotions. So there's my TED Talk. Thanks for coming. See you guys later. I I think that there is a place for humor, absolutely, and I love bringing it in. I, though, feel like, especially when I'm watching live shows and actual plays, pre-recorded stuff, which I don't do a ton of. I think we tend to get into humor. We tend to maybe over rely on humor. So I think my answer to you, Joshy, would be like, don't worry about it. Like, let the humor be a spice and not the main dish, right? I don't know. I could probably do a whole video on that, and maybe with other people who, especially if they disagree with me. So yeah, I mean, how do I go about making lighter characters? I guess I've done some for sure, but I always try to, maybe for me, I guess I try to find like what is like the motivator here, like, and do they use that humor as a defense themselves, the character, right? To sort of deflect or to like sort of avoid intimacy or vulnerability. Um, and and I think if you can do that, then you can find a way to have them a little more grounded. Then the humor doesn't feel so shticky, right? Now, if we're talking about a one shot, that's a totally different beast, I think, right? One shots in particular seem to me to be like, yeah, you're just here, you're having fun. It's hard to get into something like really deep or emotional or personal or whatever, right? But maybe particularly in longer campaigns. So, yeah. Okay. Back to the chats. Oh, is my audio cutting in and out? Shoot. I hope that's just you, 13th Fox. Okay. Looks like other people are saying that's good for them. So, you don't get enough credit for your photo skills. Thanks, Team Louie. I'm not sure what photo skills you refer to. Maybe you follow me on Instagram. That's kind of a funny thing. I had for a brief moment a D4 Instagram account, and then I just kind of got to a place where I was like, I don't want to keep up all these like different social media presences. So I just do like Blue Sky and Twitter because it's easy. But I do have a personal Instagram, and some people have like found and tagged me, like Randall Hampton like tags me on his posts, and like now Kelly and Monty have been lately, and so I feel like I'm getting a lot of followers on Instagram on my personal account, which is fine. One day I might decide to like separate them a little bit. But yeah, I do post pictures on there of like my vacations and stuff, and I really do like taking photos. One of these days, I think I'd like to get a little more serious about that hobby and get like a real camera and stuff. Are Stormlight builds in your plan? Says Nicholas. I really enjoyed your Cosmere vids, and I'm planning to run the Stonewalkers adventure. Awesome. I would love to join you. You know, based on how the Stormlight archive videos, both of them that I've done now, the one a year ago about how to play, and then especially the recent one about like the full review that I did, right? They've performed so poorly um, that it's one of those things, and I say this a lot, right, in these Q&As, because I get these kinds of questions a lot. Third party stuff, and yeah, like it seems unlikely at this point, as much as I hate to say that, unless demand increases, and who knows, maybe that game will take off. The Cosmere RPG in particular seems to be a unique beast in that it's almost like I think 95% of the people who are playing it are like Sanderson fans, right? And may or may not necessarily be big TTRPG fans otherwise. Definitely the majority of my viewers didn't watch that video, which to me says that either they're just into D&D right now and that's all they really want to play, or, that they're not necessarily Sanderson fans. It's just funny and interesting because, most successful Kickstarter for a game of all time, fourth most successful Kickstarter period of all time, raised $15 million, right? But then when you put out a review video of it, it gets 10,000 views or whatever, as opposed to 20 or 30 or 40. Yeah, I think that people who like back the Kickstarter are planning on playing it don't necessarily care about a review because they know that they're getting it. They probably already bought it, right? So that kind of thing. I don't know. So doing character builds for that system just feels a little unlikely right now because demand is so low. I think if I were to do builds for another system semi-consistently at this point, it'd probably be Daggerheart. That's another thing that I get a lot of questions about still. I'm kind of just now looking at the Daggerheart books. I know I'm like way late to the game. That seems to be getting a lot of traction, right? Though with Critical Role's recent announcement that they're playing 2024 D&D 5e, right? It kind of makes me go, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. So I'm thinking about it, and there's probably other questions that have come in that are like, hey, are you going to do Draw Steel? Are you going to do whatever? And I guess my answer is similar for all of those. It's always kind of like a maybe. depends on interest level. Depends on demand. If I get a ton of demand, then it's something that I probably do, or if it's just something that I personally am super interested in, right? Because it does take a lot of time, additional time on my part to like learn the new system and feel like I'm comfortable enough with it to put a build together that like is cool and works well and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a lot more work for usually a lot less reward. Is kind of how it ends up being. So unless it's something that I'm just inherently like dying to try and learn and master myself, which Daggerheart is kind of on the cusp of being that, then it's something that I tend to not want to gamble with a little bit. Okay, Tweep, can we hire you to make a custom build? Oh, probably not, Tweep. Thanks for the interest. I mean, gosh, I don't know. Maybe, well, that's not really something I've ever considered. I don't think that it would be worth the money that I would probably ask. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I feel like in order for it to be, and this is going to sound whatever, but like it's almost like in order for it to be worth the time that I usually put into my builds, which is a lot, right? You would be like, I can't believe you're asking that much money for this stupid little thing. So yeah, I just don't know that it would make sense for anyone. So I don't know. Interesting question. I suppose if enough people started asking me, maybe I'd come up with like a, well, what would I want to charge for me to want to do that? I come for the singing and stay for the D&D content. Thanks, Josh. Or Joshua. Some Joshuas don't like being called Josh. Josue? Um, yeah, okay, Louis. Funny, but not because they're jokey, yeah. He who sings scares away his woes. Truth, Andy. Oh, what happened? My comments jumped to the bottom for some reason. Don't do that. Go back. Go back, go back, go back. Team Louie, we met in Indy. I think we're to the point that I can chop off the Y and call you Kolb. You know what? You can, anybody, any of you have permission to call me Kolb. That's what a lot of my good friends and family call me. Although, just my family can call me Bobes. My sister gave me that nickname when we were younger. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. That's what my brothers and sisters call me, and my mom, Bobes. My mom also calls me Koala Bear. Woo! Didn't think we were going to get this personal. I have no filter. Okay, let's go back to Discord. So let's see. Sean, coffee or chocolate? There is a wrong answer. Oh, well, I'm going to be wrong then because I'm going to say both. I'm going to say both with an L because I really love both coffee and chocolate, and I don't know that I could choose if I had to. All of my milkshakes are like mocha. So, when are the Colby Awards? Lord Broseiden asks. And, I answered this, but I guess I'll answer it again. Yeah, I was thinking about doing the Colby Awards again this year. When I did them last year, I said it was the first annual Colby Awards, and now I haven't made it annual. Yeah, I think I'll probably wait. I think I'll wait till next year. I enjoyed doing it. It was fun. Admittedly, at the time, I was kind of in this limbo period between 2024 wasn't quite out yet. The embargo hadn't dropped. I'd read the player's handbook and was ready to go, but like I couldn't talk about it yet. And the 2014 builds were all going because people were like getting excited for 2024. That was part of why I did that video. But yeah, I think I would like to do it kind of semi-regularly. But in the last year I've only had 50 videos or so, 50 builds, and it seems like the pool was a little too small to try and pick winners from. Maybe I'm wrong on that front. But once I get 100 of them or so, that feels to me like a little bit more like, okay, now it's maybe a little more interesting to say which are my favorites, of these. Let's see. Is there a link to the live play you did with the Dungeon Dudes, Will and Ginny D at Gen Con? David, what a timely question. I've been saying for a long time, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I just got the files today. I got the files today. They are going to be uploaded somewhere. We haven't quite decided where they're going to live yet. They might just be on the Dungeon Dudes channel. We might make a separate YouTube channel and just host them there so that we can include also the one that Ginny and Antonio, Pointy Hat, and others that they played with, Swole Initiative, Dungeon Dad, etc. They did one too, and we called both of them like Legend Society. So we might make a new YouTube channel and put them there. We haven't decided yet, but we're very close to sort of making them publicly available. So hang tight. That was a lot of fun. Okay, let's see. Have you thought of doing a video on Draw Steel? There we go. Crunchy tactical combat system. And they feel like they're, would be a good fit for D4. That's another maybe. And based on how poorly my Illrigger video did, it kind of makes me want to say the same thing, though I appreciate there's a difference between the Illrigger and, other stuff that Matt Colville does, including Draw Steel. So yeah, that's a maybe. It hasn't got. I haven't seen as much demand for Draw Steel lately, as I was seeing maybe 6 months ago, or so. Right now, the biggest third party request is Daggerheart for obvious reasons. So that's probably at the top of my maybe I'll do this list. um, Look at me, always hedging. So yeah, so I think Draw Steel would be, maybe second on that list. But we'll see. We'll see. Again, depends on what the demand is like. Okay, let's see. Steven says, if all the UA content to come out, which would you say is your favorite and most excited to see published? Probably the Genie Paladin, I would say, because the Blade Singer isn't new enough. Like, I like that they've changed it and you can attack with your intelligence and stuff, but it's fairly similar to how it already existed, right? The Genie Paladin felt new enough that to me it was a little exciting. You know what? The other one might be the Gladiator that just dropped, right? That I talked with Monty about. Was that last week? Um, a lot of people are poo-pooing it. I appreciate that it could use some more time in the oven, but I like the concept of it, and it just feels fun. I like a charisma fighter. That's cool. It's different, right? And I think it looks interesting. Some of the stuff that they have looks interesting to me. So, yeah, those might be my favorites. Maybe a little boring. Well, the Genie Paladin isn't boring. The Gladiator fighter is probably a little boring. But I just, I like martial characters, and as much as I prefer Gishes, like, I want to see martials get more love, and maybe new subclasses is one way to that end. I don't know. Okay, back to the Discord. Araxthos Demetrius. That sounds very Greek. Would you ever consider adding a small part at the end of the videos talking about some items that would definitely fit the build? I've had this question a few times, and I don't know that my ideas have changed on it. Like, I like the idea. The problem is, as I've talked about in a lot of videos, right? If you try to include magic items in builds, I think one of two things happens. One, like, you're talking about stuff that not everybody's going to be able to benefit from, and so you're sort of talking to a smaller part of the audience there, and you're going to lose interest, and people are going to stop watching at the end, right? Which is fine, but because not all tables have like a Magix RS store in their world, right, where you can just kind of go buy whatever you want, or even craft. I know that the rules in the DMG exist and crafting's easier than ever. I also know that a lot of tables are still gonna, a lot of DMs are gonna maybe keep tighter reins on what magic items are allowed. But the other part, maybe the bigger part for me, is that because I'm always so focused on numbers, right, I feel like my recommendations would just get so samey that it would almost be not very interesting. It'd be like, okay, well, like, you're gonna want like, if you're using a weapon, you're always gonna want a flame tongue weapon if you can get it, or like etc. Depending on the enemy armor class, until the armor class gets to X, then you're gonna want the +3 weapon if you can get it, because even though it does less damage on a hit, you're gonna hit more reliably, blah, 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 right? A ring of protection, a cloak of protection. Like, I just think about numbers all the time. And that's almost, I would almost say that that's like almost antithetical to a lot of magic items in the game. Like, the what's it called, the Ram's ring or whatever, is an awesome item that I would probably never recommend and would love to have on any character, right? Or like a broom of flying, or winged boots, right? Like, they don't show up on a spreadsheet, but they're still so good and fun and useful and cool. Like, so yeah, I feel like it wouldn't be all that useful to recommend magic items, because I would end up just being like, well, the spreadsheet says this, and it's going to be almost the same thing all the time, right? If you're a spellcaster, get the item from Tasha's that gives you a +1 to hit and raises your DC by 1 for your spells of that class, etc. So, okay, let's get back to chat. What was it like doing the live show at Gen Con? Tim asks. It was so fun. Um, yeah, so much fun. Meeting Deborah was really cool, especially, right? She was kind of the biggest star, I guess I'd say, though Jasmine being there was really fun too. I'd never met her. And of course, I love Will and Kelly and Monty. It was a little nerve wracking, I will admit, like at first. I've never played on stage in front of people before, and there were probably 600 or 700 people in that room. And the spotlight's on you, right? And you're kind of you're not facing everybody. You're sort of in a V a little bit, kind of having to look like this at the dungeon master and stuff, and hearing the laughter in response to something funny that you said or did, right? Or cheering or whatever. At the very beginning was a little bit like, whoa, like it took me a second, I think, to sort of get comfortable. But everybody there was so good, and it made it pretty easy to get into character. And yeah, in the end, it was a lot of fun, and just cool to be able to kind of do that together with them. So yeah, let's see. I'm starting a new campaign. Shanderson says, with a very generous DM. Hooray! What would be your quick TLDR version of the Dungeon Dudes Arcane Hand Monk using 2024 rules, and what do we have to do to see you play it with Monty and Kelly? I played an Arcane Hand Monk at that table at that live event in Gen Con with the 2024 rules. So you don't have to do anything other than wait for it to get published. That said, it was a one shot. It was level 6. It was level 6. So there wasn't a ton of combat. I don't feel like I really got to show off a little bit because the combat encounters were quick. I don't think I ever had more than 2 rounds in any encounter. So to me, a TLDR version would be 1 level of fighter for weapon masteries primarily, so that you could get Nick, right? And then you'd want to take dual wielder, and then by monk 6, you're making 5 attacks on your turn with flurry of blows. I went straight Arcane Hand Monk because we were going to level 6, because the level 6 Arcane Hand Monk feature is good. It adds more damage if you're concentrating on a spell. And so that ended up being a little bit stronger at level 6 than even getting an additional attack from weapons, especially because I knew we could choose our magic item. And if I got a magic item that enhanced my unarmed strikes and just made all unarmed strikes, then I was going to be better. Yes, of course, I put it in the spreadsheet and crunched the numbers, even for a one-shot. So yeah, I would say fighter 1, and you probably can just go Arcane Hand Monk the rest of the way. They made some really, like, it's probably overpowered, frankly, with the 2024 rules because of the love that Monk got. So it would be hard to leave, especially before Monk 13, I think. But and maybe after Monk 13 you go into a straight class to grow your spell slots a little quicker so you can upcast, right? But yeah, it would be really fun and really potent. Okay, back to Discord. So back to the chat. You took a photo of me and Deborah Ann Wall at Gen Con. Oh, that's why you said that my photo skills were good. Thank you, Team Louie. What do you think about the Scion classes? Yeah, I put out a video. If you haven't seen it, this was from Cedric. I put out a video on the UA where I kind of broke down my thoughts there. So if you want, like, the hour-long version or whatever of my thoughts, you can see them there. Generally, I like them. I think they're interesting. I don't mind that they just made them spellcasters. I appreciate the challenge of trying to balance around a whole new sort of magic system that's not spells, even though it might be a little more interesting and cool. I'm not in the camp of like, they just made them spellcasters, right? Would I have liked to see him take a hand at doing something a little bit different? Sure. But yeah, I can appreciate why they did what they did. And ultimately, I think they can work. And there can be some fun Gish builds in particular, I think. So yeah, generally, I hope that they come, that they make it to print sooner rather than later. Let's see. Will you ever take another trip to Norway? Says Leon. Yeah. So for those who don't know, I went to so my son graduated high school, and for like a graduation gift to him, we I told him, hey, like pick a place in Europe that you want to go, and let's go. And so we did, and it was awesome. We were there for about 10 days, and we spent most of our time in Bergen on the west coast, but then also a couple days in Oslo. It was amazing. I am Scandinavian by descent, or at least half. My grandpa was from Sweden, and my last name Polson is Swedish. So yeah, that was fun to get back to what felt like. I could tell just being there felt like, oh, this feels a little bit like home in a way, right? And it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I'd love to get back. No current plans, but maybe one day. Um, Cedric, I really want to do a Venom symbiote build. Oh, thoughts on using Scion Barbarian multiclass? Oh, that could work really well. it's been too long since I've looked at, the specific details of the different Scion classes and subclass features that I don't know. I could speak super intelligently on it, but yeah, again, I think there's a lot of potentially cool Gish builds. In fact, I did a one shot with some people here. I don't know if any of them are in the chat right now, but it was 2 weeks ago. I just someone on the Discord in the LFG channel was like, "Hey, we're in Salt Lake and we're looking for someone to fill a slot for our one shot this Saturday," and I was just like, I'll come. And so I went down and played with them, and they were all very lovely people, and we had a lot of fun. And Kayan, the gal who sort of threw out the invite, she played a monk scion multi-class to great effect, I think. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, let's see. Have you ever thought, Kai Barker, have you ever thought about making a second, less involved channel to make videos about Cosmere and other things you want to talk about without impacting your main monetized channel? Yeah, for this, here's some D4 lore for those who don't know. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. Well, okay, further back. Very early on in the channel, I used to do, was it once a month? I would do what I called sliding into my DMs, which there's still a playlist that you can watch those old videos, where I would have conversations with my DMs. And usually there was like some kind of rules questions that we'd discuss, and then also some sort of like advice for players and or DMs kind of thing. It was a lot of fun. It was unscripted. I'd just kind of pose a question and then we'd chat, right? I stopped doing that. Well, and then also we started doing our actual play. We were recording our actual play, Tales of Veneria, and we were posting those games on the channel too. And I started noticing that it had a real negative impact on the channel, like because most people wanted to watch my build videos, and a lot fewer people would watch the sliding into my DMs or the Tales of Veneria videos. And so YouTube started like not knowing what to do with my videos. They'd post a video and like it would get way fewer clicks, and so then the next video I posted, which was a build video, would get a lot fewer impressions because they were like, "Oh yeah, nobody's clicking on your videos, dude." And I'm like, "No, people do on these ones." So ultimately I'm just like, yeah, you know what, like I got to just stay in my lane or else it really screws up the algorithm. So we stopped doing anything. I stopped doing anything other than just the build videos. So yeah, to your point, if I were to do like third-party content stuff more consistently, it would be better to put it on a second channel. But that would take a lot more time and effort than I think I have or at least want to invest in doing something like that. So yeah, like if I weren't, a 40-something with 3 kids and a wife and was just like single guy with a lot more time on my hands, then I probably would do something like that. But as is, yeah, like if I find myself with any leftover time, like I want to give it to my family right now. So doing that feels like it would be maybe a good decision financially and would be fun to create more content, and maybe a bad decision for my life otherwise. So probably wouldn't be something I would do anytime in the near future, I think. Swole Knight in Discord, have you ever thought of doing a build that matches a character type? So not like a named character like Obi-Wan, but like a build that could fit into a thematic archetype of, say, Smith, like the scouts in Attack on Titan. I'm not familiar with Attack on Titan, sorry. I'm not a huge anime guy. I like some anime, but that's one that I think I only watched like the first episode of a long time ago. Yeah, this is sort of similar to a lot of questions that I get like this, although you're right. Like most of the time, if people are asking for me to like do something in like a third party fiction, but in D&D, it's usually like a specific character, right, as opposed to an archetype. The one that I did, the Windrunner, right, was it was kind of supposed to be Kaladin from the Stormlight Archive books, but I think I was trying to be a little more generalist about it and be like, this could kind of just be like, a Windrunner, a light, not a light weaver, a Stormlight user, of that particular. Anyways, so not necessarily a specific character, and that might have a little more broad appeal, but I run into the same issue, right? Where like maybe not everybody's a fan of Attack on Titan necessarily, and so the concern is that video performs terribly. And so yeah, that's tough. And I know I keep saying that a lot, and I don't want to sound too much like um, that I'm always beholden to the spreadsheet, as it were, that I'm always beholden to, a video's performance. I do plenty of stuff that I just want to do because it feels fun to me and it's something that's really interesting to me. But that's a good example of like, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Attack on Titan, and so it's not calling to me, right? Whereas I am a huge fan of Stormlight Archive, so I was like, yeah, that feels fun. In that vein, I am doing my second ever like third party D&D video, third party fiction. Play this character in D&D, coming out Tuesday. It's for the K-pop Demon Hunters. And I'm super excited about it, and most of you know that I'm doing that. And that's just one, like, I'm obsessed with that movie right now, you guys. Oh, I've watched it like every day for the last 3 days, I think. It's just fun, and like my girls are so into it right now too, that's part of the fun for me, is watching it with them and us like singing along to the songs and stuff. But like the animation's really good, the fight scenes are cool. Yesterday I'm just like, my girls wanted to watch it again, and I'm like, let's just skip through like the fight scenes, like, because I don't think I want to spend 90 minutes watching it again. But like the songs that coincide with the fight scenes usually, right, are like the best songs and the best fight scenes. So we just kind of watch those, and they work so well in D&D. Like they transfer so smoothly, I think, into like a build for a D&D character. That said, if you're not a fan or uninterested in K-pop Demon Hunters, like, please still watch the video on Tuesday, because it works really well. Just if you wanted to just explore 3 different bard builds, like Gishi bards, one kind of more offensive minded, one sort of more well-rounded, and then one that's sort of more roguish and kind of utility and skill focused along with damage. So yeah, I'm hoping that video does really well. I think, based on how crazy popular K-pop Demon Hunters is right now, that I'm hoping that it will. But even if it doesn't, like, I won't be super sad, right? So yeah, it takes a kind of a special situation where it's like, I'm way into this, and I think it translates actually pretty well into D&D. Like, it's not a huge stretch to try and fit this round peg into a square hole, right? Or is it a square peg into a round hole? Anyways, yeah, long answers to short, simple questions. That's me. Um, okay, 13th Fox. Oh, there's a reason. Oops, where did that go? There's a reason that. Oh, my chats keep getting screwed up, and it just skipped me down to the bottom again. There's a reason that Critical Role chose D&D. I don't blame you. Yeah, I'm actually kind of hopeful. Like when I saw that announcement, I'm sure a lot of you actually let me know in the comments here, like if you agree. When I saw that they were doing D&D, I got pretty excited. I bet most Critical Role fans were not. They probably wanted to see him play Daggerheart. This for me is mostly selfish. I don't watch a lot of Critical Role. I'll catch an episode once in a while. Um, but I feel like with Wizards of the Coast coming out with the 2024 rules, they have effectively like split my audience, right? There's a lot of people who have not yet moved over to 2024 and don't know if or when they will. And so most of those people, I think, are not watching any of the videos that I've put out in the last year because, it doesn't apply to them kind of thing, right? For those who haven't made the switch but still watch the videos anyways, thank you so much. And for those who have made the switch and watch the videos, thank you too. But yeah, so I guess my hope is that with them deciding to stick with D&D and especially moving to the 2024 rules, that it might nudge a few more people to make that jump, and maybe my recent content will get a little lift as a result. I guess we'll see. But yeah, and also because again, it's just the system that I'm more familiar with, and so it's just a little bit easier. I'm much more likely to watch, frankly, and I'm sure that was a big part of the reason why they decided to stick with D&D, right? And also it's something that players are familiar with. Brendan Lee Mulligan is familiar with, and as a DM who's now going to be DMing 3 tables for the biggest actual play in the world, maybe they were like, yeah, maybe we won't force you to learn a new system too, right? But I don't know. There's probably plenty of reasons. And then the conspiracy theorists among us think that Wizards of the Coast is paying them. I suppose that's possible. But I'm glad they decided to stay with D&D personally. Hot Water Healing, do you have advice for creating our own optimized characters without following your or someone else's pre-builds? You know what? I've started to make a script that is essentially like how to optimize a character for D&D. I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day because it's something that like I start and then I gotta work on my video for the week, and then whatever, my accountant needs to talk to me and I have to talk with my agent, and my wife needs something, right? So I just don't get back to it. I haven't got very far on that script, but it is a question that I've had a lot. Like how do you optimize a character? I'd be interested to know, and unfortunately, maybe this is part of the reason why I haven't finished the script. It's not super, like there's not a checklist that I follow, right? Necessarily. There are a few things that I think about, a lot of things that I think about, but I don't necessarily think about like, okay, like, I don't know. To me, it's always like concept first. What's the concept, right? Is it a ranged character? Is it this subclass that's doesn't get a lot of love? Is it, whatever? And then okay, well, like, what's the class? What's the purpose of the build for me? Is it damage most of the time, right? Is it tank? Is it support? Whatever. And then like I kind of go from there into, well, okay, what classes and subclasses are going to give me the features that are going to really benefit here, what species, etc. And I just kind of go down the list. But I also do think a lot about, okay, what am I doing with my bonus action? Like I think of all the resources that we have available to us. Action, bonus action, reaction, even potentially, right? Concentration, like, am I concentrating on anything? And if not, could I be? And if it's just a pure martial, not a spellcaster, well, if I took a dip into something to pick up a spell so that I could concentrate, would that be worth, giving up the levels for it, etc. So I do think about like, how am I using all of my resources? And if I don't have anything effective to do with my bonus action, well, let's find something, right, that is going to help me get there. So anyways, again, a long answer to a simple question. My advice, I guess I've just laid out my advice. Maybe think about it from that perspective, like, not just what's going to help me hit the hardest when I take the attack action, or what's the spell that's going to exert the most battlefield control, but like, what else could I be doing? What resources do I have to use as a character, right? And am I using them? And if not, could I do something to pick up a spell, a feature, a subclass ability, a species ability that will let me take advantage of those quote unquote resources every turn, that might enhance my character, right? Okay, hopefully that was helpful. I think I asked this earlier, but just in case. Oh, where can we watch the one shot? Yep, I went over that. Stay tuned. Hopefully, very, very soon, we'll have an announcement about where you can watch that one shot that we did at Gen Con. Strider Zessi. What monk subclass would you recommend for a player who really wants to feel powerful? Ooh, I love that question. Gosh. That's a hard question to answer because I think first of all, monks got a ton of love in 2024. Hooray. So I think all four that we have in the Player's Handbook, the 2024 Player's Handbook, are good. I do. And powerful depends. That's a little bit subjective, right? Like, do you mean the most damage? Do you mean like just feels cool and capable of doing cool, powerful, potent, interesting things, right? Because I think you could make an argument that any of them could be like just straight up Kung Fu Master, knocking enemies prone, hitting them while they're down, pushing them, etc. And then especially at level 17, you get a big damage bump, right? The open hand is great. Shadow Monk and Elements, though, bring like a magical flavor to them that will probably make you feel really powerful. In the Shadow Monk's case, being able to teleport all over the battlefield, strike from the shadows, right? Bamf, Nightcrawler, that feels cool and powerful. But then Elements is like making attacks from ranged and, with actual fire and, water and all earth and air, etc. That can feel really cool too. And potent and powerful, and is potent and powerful. I would argue, I guess, if you were going straight class monk and you were looking for just like what is going to put out the most damage, if like there's just a target dummy, if there's a target dummy and I'm just hitting it over and over and over again, right? What is the most powerful monk? It's the Mercy monk. Because they can do Hand of Harm and get some extra damage out of their attacks. But it's close. It's not a huge... And, Mercy monks can also heal and inflict the poison condition later on. So, like, they do also bring cool utility, like support. I think they're probably the best monk subclass in the game right now, mechanically. But also, I really like them, and they're fun. But of course, if you have access to third-party stuff, then the correct answer is the Arcane Hand monk that Kelly and Monty put out in their Drakenheim, Sebastian Crow's Guide to Drakenheim book, because they're just a spellcaster. Let's see. Tweep. Sorry, he was talking to somebody else. Yeah, as YKK, I don't know how to say that. YKK or Yuck? I'm going to say Yuck. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. Hard to make any non-D&D TTRPG content, unfortunately. That's true. Though not impossible, obviously. And my Pathfinder stuff did really well for a minute until it didn't, and I stopped. Yay, we love Daggerheart. Daggerheart's very fun to GM. That's good to know. I gotta take a little more time to actually read through the rule books there. In fact, speaking of, I am considering doing a Daggerheart one-shot with, it would be Treant Monk, the Dungeon Dudes, and Jeremy, Insight Check, probably for charity. It's not set in stone yet. It's still in the maybe realm, but if it happens, it will probably be October. It's looking like. So I better learn the rules and be able to make a character. So yeah, stay tuned for more info on that. Hopefully, Tony's loving Draw Steel. Good to know. Let's see. Tony says promo event contest where winner gets build made. Oh yeah, that could be cool. Some sort of, hey, well, I don't know what. Sign up for either become a channel member for the first time or increase your channel level, and everyone who does one of those things gets entered into a drawing. I don't know. And then I'll make a custom build for you. That could be fun. Something like that. I'd have to think about it. First biannual Colby Awards. Yeah, that's what they'll be if I do it every other, or no, semi-annual. Biannual would be twice a year, wouldn't it? Semi-annual would be every other. I don't know. Anyways. Okay, let's go back to Discord. So, Yuck, again, he's active in both he, she, they. A year or so in, how are you feeling about the 2024 design philosophy? How has it changed how you build characters? Are you excited for upcoming subclasses, Scion, etc.? Okay, we've talked a little bit about that last bit, and yeah, upcoming subclasses, Scion too. I am interested in both. How am I feeling about 2024 design philosophy, and how has it changed how I build characters? That's a good question, and one that I need to think about. Generally speaking, I enjoy the changes that they've made. Not all of them, but like if I had to take them at a whole, right? 2014 or 2024, I think I'm picking 2024. It's imperfect. There's things that I would change if I could. But I appreciate the way that they're reducing burst and nova damage, for example. I like what they're doing. I like what they've done with backgrounds and origin feats. I'd like to see more of them. I'd like to see more flexibility in that system. I feel like they've narrowed the gap between. Here's my number one the criticism of, I guess, 5e design in general. And this may change, but it's what I'm feeling right now and have been feeling for the last 6 months. Even though, well, I'll put it this way. Martial characters need to scale better. If I could make one change, I suppose, to the way that D&D 5e works currently. I think they scale better in 2024 rules than they do in 2014. I don't think they've gone far enough. And I don't know why Wizards seems so afraid to sort of unshackle martial characters a little bit. Some of you, a lot of you, most of you have probably heard me say something like this over the last 6 months, right? And I keep coming back to it. Like every time I go to do a build, I've been working on a Rune Knight character. Oh, here's a little sneak peek for you. You're all familiar with the assist of opportunity, as I'm calling it now, debacle, right? The attack of opportunity stuff. That can you take Warcaster, cast a spell on your friend as they run past you. That we've had a lot of fun with, for the record, as creators, right? Will, Jeremy, Dungeon Dudes, Chris, everybody. Like we're in a Discord channel together, and there's banter, and we pretend like we're angry, but none of us are actually angry, and it's been fun. If you probably saw the Dungeon Dudes video, right, where they talk to some of the WotC devs, and they basically say, rules as intended, no. Rules as written, sure. Talk to your DM, and maybe it's cool and fun. And so, and Monty asks, he's like, should Colby make character builds for this under these assumptions then? And they were like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, all right, fine. I'm going to. So I'm working right now on a script for, a build, where it's basically the build and then three teammates. I'm not doing four total builds, but like the build and then three teammates that all have Warcaster, and what would they, hit me with as I ran past them on my turn. And then what would the Nova damage look like under that scenario? And it's been fun to put together a little bit, but the reason why I'm thinking about it is because I'm using the Rune Knight. Some of you can probably guess why. And, it's like I get into, once you get past Fighter 11, man, especially in a 2014 subclass, right? It's like it is just a desert of scaling. Like, they get a feature that raises the once per turn damage that they get to do when they grow big. They use their bonus action to grow big, and then they can do a d6 of damage once on their turn, right? Well, at high level, that d6 becomes a d8. And it's just like, really? Like, one more damage on average for like how many levels? That, like, it blows my mind that there's this fear at Wizards of the Coast to sort of unshackle their marshals and let them, scale. It would be tough now to try and do that because, the monster manual is already out, right? And so how do you balance? How do you go back and balance under an assumption of, characters hitting harder or whatever? I don't know. It's tough. But anyways, maybe that's a big takeaway for 6E. Let's see. Planning to do anything about the new Monster Hunter class from Grim Hollow? Yeah, sorry, Leon. That's probably in the same category, right? Cool, and unlikely that you'll see a build from me. And again, unless like there's just a ton of demand, and or like I get into it and just get really interested in it and just want to do it because it just looks cool and fun. I'm not super familiar with it right now. Maybe someone will be like, "Hey, I'm doing a Grim Hollow one shot. Like, you got to build a character for Halloween or something," and then I would be like, "Ooh, I want to do a video on this." But until then, seems unlikely. Do you ever see yourself getting involved in? This is Marimba Guy. I like the marimba. Do you see yourself getting involved in other areas of the TTRPG industry? Whether that's writing a book about playing games like The Lazy DM Alexandrian, or writing a supplement for D&D. That's a really good question. Sometimes I've been doing this for 5 years now, and I love it. Every Monday I sit down and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited that I get to do a character build. But I can imagine that fading. And sure, I guess, there are some weeks where I'm like, well, not really. There are no weeks like that. There are some days or hours, I suppose, where I feel a little slogged. But yeah, generally I'm loving it. But I do think plenty about like 5 more years, like what does this look like? And I guess the short answer to your question is yes. The longer answer is I'm not 100% sure what that looks like. I don't think I'd ever, frankly, be super interested in becoming like a third-party content creator. I just don't know that that's where my passion is. Maybe that may change, right? I've talked about doing a book of just like my builds before, and maybe calling it a book of big bads or something, right? And you can use these either as characters or as like your BBEG. Coupling it with Randall Hampton's artwork, something like that could be cool. But going and creating a new adventure, new subclasses, a new like homebrew world, that kind of thing. Not something that for whatever reason I've been super interested in. I think, if anything, what seems the more likely right now would be to get more into actual play stuff. And trying to do that in a way where I get to sit down with like the friends and other creators that I've made in this space, and trying to be like, whatever you want to call it. We joke about it sometimes, the Avengers of of D&D actual play. So like, I don't know, trying to get a game with like Monty and Kelly and Ginny and Will or Antonio, or you know what I mean, whatever. And doing an actual play like that would be really, really cool. It would be hard because we're so spread out, right, geographically. we'd have to like fly into Toronto where the Dungeon Dudes live and play 8 episodes in a week or 10 or whatever, right? And just do that every 3 months or something like that if we wanted to have consistent content. And maybe we mix up the table, and we do more of a West Marches style game, kind of like Critical Role is doing, where it's like, okay, these guys are going to be season 1 and they're going to do 10, 12 episodes of this arc, and then we're going to maybe a couple people drop off, a couple people come in, or a whole new group, right? Same world, kind of moving towards like an overarching story, where we're just doing like season 1, season 2, season 3, and then I don't know, something like that. We talk about this kind of thing a lot when we get together, and then we all go, oh, if only we had more time and money. So that's something that like is super interesting and like compelling to me that I would really love to do more of. That's kind of at the top of my wish list of like, getting more involved in the TTRPG industry. But as far as like creating more like books or like role play game content, like for people to read and use in their own builds and tables and things like that, like I'm a little less interested, frankly. I don't know why. It's not really my cup of tea. I don't know. Okay, it's already been an hour. Holy cow. Let me quickly see if I can go rapid fire on at least the Discord questions. Sorry, I was less engaged with the chat than I thought I was going to be. Have you read the Dungeon Crawler Carl series? Oh my goodness. Go to the off-topic channel in the Discord, because you'll see a big old post that I made about it yesterday. I love this series so much. I'm almost finished with book 6. I'm like in the middle of the climax right now. In fact, as soon as we're done, I'm probably going to read. I can't wait for book 7 to come out in hardback. I've already pre-ordered it. It's fun. It's funny. I think it's great satire. It's not perfect. There are some problems. But generally, it's been just an amazing summer read that I've flown through. Boy, that's quickfire, huh? Oh, yeah, thanks to Colby's advice, I brought the first one just last week. Yes, so good. I can't wait for book 7. Grim Hollow player pack is insane, Leon says. So much good stuff. A Monster Hunter class again. Yeah, sorry. Do you have any inside information on upcoming expansions like Heroes of Faerun or Eberron Forge of the Artificer? Not really, Rimble. I should be getting advanced copies, but sometimes Wizards of the Coast is not great at communication. That may surprise you to hear, or not. So yeah, like I don't have any sort of real insider info. I might get the book a little early so that I can prepare a video on it if I wanted to. But that's about as much inside as I get. Toronto would be cool. Yeah, I do love Toronto. I love Canada in general. McDeasy, if given the opportunity to play in a level 21 shot with rolled stats, what insane build would you play? Something really mad like a Paladin Monk. Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of, actually. A Paladin Monk. So since this is supposed to be quickfire, I'm just going to stick with that. I don't know what the breakdown would be, though I'm tempted to say it would be Pally 6, Monk 14. Because then your saving throws would be amazing, and think of all the smites you could do with your fists. That would be so cool. But I would want better spell slots for smites, and you would not have very good spell slots. But still, you'd get weapon masteries. You'd get most of what you needed. That would be pretty good. Would you ever consider being a guest GM at a convention? That's a good question, Drac, and that's where I'm going to cut it off. So my agent just asked if I would be willing to do like a cruise. For those who don't know, they do these like gaming cruises, right? Where like they bring on like special guest GMs, and then that's the draw, right? Hey, come sign up for this cruise, and you get to play with Colby or Monty or whoever, right? And so they pay my way. That's how they get me. And then I GM. And I'm like, I think I might want to do that. Like, it would be really cool. It's in Europe. You go down the Danube, I believe it was. You end at what's supposed to be Dracula's castle. and you play in Dracula's castle for a couple of days. So yeah, that would be awesome. My big reservation there is honestly like I would feel a lot of pressure, right? To like, okay, now people have like paid and their expectations are really high. And like, what if I suck, right, as a GM for them or whatever, and I don't live up to those expectations? So that I think is something that I would maybe struggle with a little bit internally. And also, I'm a pretty inexperienced GM. Like I've done some, but I definitely have done way less than a lot of my, contemporary, my counterparts, my friends. Um, I think if I were to do that, let me end with a question for you guys, and you can put it in the chat or in the video comments. If I were to GM, if you were to pay to have me GM a game for you, whether on a cruise ship or at a convention or something like that, like what would you anticipate or hope that that experience would be like? Because for me, I kind of almost feel like um, if I were to do that, I should do like what maybe I am good at, right? Which would be to potentially like take one or more of my own character builds and make them the stuff that you have to fight against. But I'm not going to tell you what ones they are. And it might even be like a story light, especially if it's a kind of a one shot thing, right? A story light arena style thing. But maybe that would be boring. I just don't know. But like, I don't know that most of my viewers or fans or whatever, right, are like, oh, I like to watch Colby's videos because like he tells such great stories and has such great advice for DMs. So it's like maybe I just lean into sort of my thing in that scenario, right, and just like have some really difficult combat encounters or again like take my builds and make you fight them or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, something I've thought about. So yeah, you tell me what you guys think. Sorry, I was not as interactive with the chat as I thought I was going to be. You guys were super active, so thank you for that. And the Discord has simultaneously been going crazy. Like some people are just using the Discord channel now as a chat, which is fine. Anyways, you guys are the best. I love you. Thank you so much for being here, for hanging out, for your support is so appreciated. I hope you have a great day and a fantastic weekend, and that you're as excited as I am about the K-pop Demon Hunters video that's coming out on Tuesday. And if you're not that excited about it, I hope you'll watch it anyways, because I'll bet you'll watch it and you'll be like, you know what, that was pretty good. Even though maybe I want to go watch that movie now because it's awesome. Okay. You guys rock. Thank you. And see you later. Bye.